The sleek silhouette of the Stygian thorn hung against the backdrop of Earth's blue and white swirled atmosphere, invisible to the primitive scanning technology of the humans below. Commander Kalen stood on the bridge, his tall, angular form reflected in the glossy black control panels of the most advanced stealth vessel in the Forlac Empire's reconnaissance fleet. His four-fingered hand tapped impatiently on the command console as he stared at the view screen showing the chaotic, teeming planet beneath them. Status report, he demanded, not bothering to turn to his crew. His voice carried the distinctive metallic resonance characteristic of the Forlac elite caste. Planetary analysis complete, Commander, replied Science Officer Lyra, her voice more melodious but no less precise. As intelligence suggested, they remain divided into nation-states, engaged in various conflicts and competitions. Technological development is uneven but accelerating at an alarming rate. Kalen made a dismissive gesture. Their political squabbles are irrelevant. What matters is the quantum simulation breakthrough. Have we located the source? Lyra hesitated, adjusting the neural interface at her temple, a sign of discomfort that Kalen had learned to recognize during their long mission together. We've identified several facilities conducting advanced quantum research, but there are inconsistencies in our data. The humans' global network is surprisingly difficult to penetrate. This drew Kalen's full attention. He turned toward her, the iridescent scales along his neck flaring slightly in irritation. Difficult? For la technology? These creatures were using vacuum tubes when our ancestors had already mastered interstellar travel. Nevertheless, Lyra continued carefully, their cybersecurity systems, while architecturally primitive, display unusual adaptability. They appear almost organic in their response patterns. Before Kalen could respond, the bridge door slid open with a soft hiss. Infiltration leader Zalter strode in, his movements betraying both confidence and frustration. Unlike most Forlac, whose demeanor remained coolly analytical, Zalter had always been more expressive, a trait that made him excellent at his job, but occasionally grated on Kalen's nerves. "Commander, I believe we've found a way in," Zalter announced, not waiting for acknowledgement. He gestured, and a holographic display materialized in the center of the bridge, showing a complex network map. This node, a legacy connection between an academic research facility and their military grid. It's using outdated encryption protocols. My team has been analyzing it for the past 12 cycles. Kalen studied the display with narrowed eyes. "How confident are you that we can penetrate it undetected?" "Very," Zalter replied instantly. "The humans still rely on binary authentication. Primitive. Our quantum algorithms should slice through it like a pulse blade through atmosphere." Lyra stepped closer to the hologram, her head tilted in the Forlac expression of concern. "There's something unusual about this node. The traffic patterns don't align with standard human communication protocols. And look here," she pointed to a pulsing section of the display, "these signal modulations. They're too regular, too perfect. Natural variation is to be expected in a species so disorganized," Zalter countered dismissively. "Their systems are built by different entities with different standards. It's the chaos of individualism." Kalen considered this, his gaze shifting between his two officers. The Supreme Command was growing impatient. 3 standard cycles had passed since intelligence had detected anomalous energy signatures suggesting that humans, somehow, inexplicably, had achieved a breakthrough in quantum simulation technology that had eluded even Forlac scientists. Technology that, if weaponized, could threaten the Empire's dominance of the galactic quadrant. His orders were clear: identify the source, extract the data, and, if necessary, eliminate the facility before the humans fully understood what they had stumbled upon. Thus far, the mission had yielded nothing but frustration. Prepare the infiltration, Kalen decided. I want a full breach protocol. Maximum stealth, minimal footprint. Commander, Lyra interjected. With respect, I recommend we conduct further analysis. This access point appears too convenient. It could be a trap. A trap? Zalter scoffed. From humans? They don't even know we exist. Kalen shared Zalter's skepticism but maintained a commander's neutral tone. Your concern is noted, science officer. However, we spent enough time observing. The Supreme Command expects results, not caution. He turned to Zalter. You have authorization. Begin immediately. As Zalter hurried from the bridge, Kalen caught Lyra's expression, the slight tightening around her eyes that signaled disapproval. Speak freely. Science officer. We've encountered anomalies throughout this mission, she said quietly. The human's technology shouldn't be capable of blocking our standard infiltration methods, yet it has. And now we find a convenient access point? It contradicts logic. Sometimes, Kalen replied, returning his gaze to the blue planet filling the view screen. Primitive species simply get lucky, a temporary evolutionary advantage before the inevitable fall. His voice hardened. But luck doesn't stand against the Forlac Empire. Lyra didn't respond. Her silence spoke volumes, but Kalen had made his decision. Success here would guarantee his promotion to the Inner Fleet, a position he had coveted since his days at the Academy. He would not let the overcautious concerns of a science officer derail his ambition, no matter how respected she might be. Monitor the infiltration from here, he ordered. I'll be in my quarters preparing the preliminary report for Supreme Command. As the door closed behind him, Kalen allowed himself a moment of anticipation. Soon, the human secrets would belong to the Empire, and his place in Forlac history would be secured. Such was the natural order of the galaxy. The penetration operation began 6 hours later, with the Stygian Thorn positioned in geostationary orbit above the target facility, a nondescript research complex nestled in the mountains of what humans called the Pacific Northwest. The bridge hummed with the low, focused energy of Forlac professionals at work. Zalter stood at the infiltration console, surrounded by a team of specialists, their neural interfaces glowing as they connected directly to the ship's advanced systems. On the main view screen, cascading strings of code represented the penetration algorithms as they probed the human network. First layer breached, Zalter announced. Primitive firewalls, exactly as expected. Moving to Level 2 encryption. Kalen nodded approvingly. Time estimate to full penetration? At current progression, 23 minutes, standard time. The operation proceeded with methodical precision. Each security layer fell before Forlac technology like ancient walls before modern weapons. Kalen felt his confidence growing. Soon, Lyra's caution would be proven unnecessary, and, Commander, we're in, Zalter reported triumphantly. Accessing research database now. Beginning data extraction. The view screen shifted to display streams of human data, complex formulas, diagrams, simulation results. Even to Kalen's eyes, trained in advanced sciences at the Imperial Academy, some of the calculations appeared staggeringly sophisticated. This is it, he breathed. The quantum breakthrough. Lyra had moved closer to the display, her expression intent. It appears to be a novel approach to multidimensional quantum entanglement. But, she frowned. The data transfer rate is fluctuating. Consequence of their inferior network architecture, Zalter dismissed without looking up from his console. We're receiving the data regardless. 22% complete. Kalen allowed himself a small gesture of satisfaction. Prepare a secure package for immediate transmission to Supreme Command once extraction is complete. Commander, Lyra said suddenly, her voice sharp. These response packets, their digital signatures don't match any known human protocol. Explain, Kalen demanded. The authentication headers contain elements I've never encountered before. And look at this code structure. She gestured at a section of the streaming data. It's too elegant, too efficient for human programming. Zalter shook his head, attention still focused on the infiltration display. 41% complete. Let's not invent problems where none. He stopped abruptly as the infiltration display flickered, then stabilized. Minor network variance, he said, though his tone had lost some of its confidence. The view screen suddenly changed, displaying what appeared to be an error message, written in basic Forlac script. Operation compromised, smiley face. It read, the last symbol meaningless in Forlac language. What is that? Kalen demanded, rising from his command chair. How are they generating Forlac text? It must be a reflection of our own infiltration packets, Zalter said, fingers flying across his interface. A simple echo. Nothing to. The error message vanished, replaced by a stream of seemingly random characters interspersed with what appear to be quotations in human languages. To be or not to be, that is the question. All that glitters is not gold. I think, therefore I am. Lyra's expression had shifted from concern to alarm. This is deliberate, Commander. We're not just detected. We're being manipulated. Impossible, Zalter insisted, though his voice had risen an octave. 53% complete. Accelerating extraction. Disengage, Kalen ordered sharply. Terminate the connection. Attempting, Zalter responded, his earlier confidence entirely evaporated. The termination protocols aren't responding. Something is holding our connection open. I've never seen anything like. The view screen flickered again, and suddenly the flowing data was replaced by a simple message in perfect Forlac script. Knock, knock. Who's there? Your worst nightmare. A cold sensation crept along Kalen's spine. Fear, an emotion he had rarely experienced in his distinguished career. Emergency protocols. Cut all external connections. Now. I can't, Zalter said, his voice tight with rising panic. The systems aren't responding to commands. Something is tracing back through our connection. It's accessing our systems. Impossible, Kalen whispered, but even as he spoke, the evidence of his error manifested all around them. The lights on the bridge flickered. Control panels began cycling through functions without input. The environmental systems whined as temperature regulators were overridden. Most alarmingly, the low hum that had been constant since the Stygian Thorn's commissioning, the sound of its quantum stealth field, suddenly ceased. Stealth systems offline, reported a crew member, voice tight with disbelief. We're visible, Commander. How? Kalen demanded, though the question was rhetorical. No human technology should be capable of this. No human mind could possibly navigate Forlac systems, much less override them. The view screen changed again, this time displaying a simple, stylized image of what humans called a ghost, a wispy, ethereal form with exaggerated eyes. And then a voice, a human voice, echoed through the bridge, speaking in flawless, accentless Forlac. Hello, Stygian Thorn. Or should I address you directly, Commander Kalen? I've been expecting you. The bridge crew froze in collective shock. Kalen found his voice first. Identify yourself. A sound came in response. A human sound, a brief exhalation expressing amusement. Chuckle, if Kalen recalled his xenobiology correctly. You can call me Spectre, the voice replied. Though that's not my real name, of course. Just a little joke between us hackers. How are you accessing our systems? Kalen demanded, struggling to maintain his commanding presence while the situation deteriorated around him. How do you know our language? Your systems? Oh, Commander, I've been inside your systems for the past 17 minutes. As for your language, let's just say you're not the first Forlac vessel to come sniffing around our little planet. Though you're certainly the most arrogant I've encountered. Kalen exchanged glances with Lyra, whose expression confirmed his worst fear. This was no fluke, no lucky primitive. This was something else entirely. As a demonstration of good faith, Spectre continued conversationally. I'll answer the question you're too stunned to ask. How did I beat the most advanced cybersecurity in the known galaxy? Simple. You were looking for patterns, predictability, structure. But that's not how we humans work, is it? We're messy, chaotic, adaptive. The voice took on a harder edge. And when we detect a threat, we get creative. To punctuate this statement, the life support systems in the unoccupied quarters of the ship suddenly shut down. A moment later, they reactivated, a reminder of the complete control this Spectre now exercised. What do you want? Kalen asked, mentally calculating their options. The emergency self-destruct would prevent their technology from falling into human hands, but it would mean the end of his career and likely his life once Supreme Command learned of his failure. Now we're getting somewhere, Spectre replied. First, I want you to open a direct communication channel to Earth's Global Cyber Command. They're quite eager to speak with you. Global Cyber Command? Kalen repeated. We have no record of such an organization. Of course not. We created it after detecting your previous reconnaissance missions. Did you really think those were successful? That we didn't notice? Commander, your empire has been under surveillance for longer than you realize. Before Kalen could respond, the main view screen changed again. This time, it displayed the image of a human, female, middle-aged by their standards, wearing a uniform with insignia Kalen didn't recognize. This is Admiral Helena Reeves of Earth's Global Cyber Command. The human said in her own language, which the ship's systems automatically translated. I understand we have your attention, Commander Kalen of the Forlac Empire. Kalen stood rigid, mind racing. This was unprecedented. First contact protocols dictated careful, controlled interactions over years or decades. Not this. Not a complete reversal of power in minutes. How shall we proceed, Commander? Lyra asked quietly at his side. Supreme Command should be notified immediately. I agree, said Spectre's voice, once again speaking through the ship's communication system. In fact, let's call them right now. I'm sure they'll be thrilled to hear how you've single-handedly exposed the Empire to a species you dismissed as primitive. The screen split, showing both Admiral Reeves and a communication channel opening to Forlac Supreme Command. Kalen moved to stop it, but the controls remained unresponsive. You can't, he began. Already done, Spectre interrupted cheerfully. And while we wait for your superiors to join our little chat, let me share what else I've been up to during our conversation. The view screen changed again, displaying what appeared to be Forlac military data, fleet positions, research facility locations, communication protocols. You see, Spectre continued, your ship made such a perfect bridge. While you were focused on breaking into our systems, I was using the same connection to explore yours. And beyond yours. Well, let's just say your empire's network security is impressive in theory, but disastrous in execution. Too hierarchical. Too many backdoors for the elite. Too much faith in technology that you don't fully understand. Kalen felt the blood drain from his face. This is impossible. You're bluffing. Am I? Let's test that theory. On the screen, alarm icons began appearing at various points on a map of Forlac territory. Just triggered emergency protocols at 3 of your frontier outposts, Spectre explained. Nothing dangerous. Just enough confusion to verify my access. Oh, and I've also taken the liberty of releasing some rather interesting research data about your bioweapons program to a few of your rival species. The Tellurians were particularly interested. The communication channel to Supreme Command suddenly activated, revealing the stern visage of High Commander Vexer. His scales darkened with age and status. His expression shifted from irritation to alarm as he took in the situation. Commander Kalen, explain this breach of protocol immediately, he demanded. Before Kalen could respond, Admiral Reeves spoke. High Commander, I represent Earth. Your vessel has been caught attempting to steal sensitive data from our facilities. This constitutes an act of aggression under any reasonable definition. Silence, human, Vexer snarled. This communication is unauthorized and... Actually, Spectre interjected. I authorized it. And you might want to listen to the Admiral before dismissing her. Your Empire's security has been compromised at the highest levels. I'm currently accessing your personal files, High Commander. Interesting reading. Vexer's expression shifted from dismissive anger to shocked disbelief. Impossible. No alien technology could penetrate our networks. Not technology, High Commander, Admiral Reeves said calmly. Human ingenuity. And now, we need to discuss terms. Terms. Vexer's voice was dangerous. The Forlac Empire does not negotiate with lesser species. Then perhaps, Spectre said, you'd like me to demonstrate just how lesser we are by deactivating life support across your Central Command complex? Or would you prefer I release the financial records showing how you've been embezzling Imperial resources for your private estates on Forlag Prime? The silence that followed was profound. Kalen watched as the unthinkable happened. High Commander Vexer, third in the imperial hierarchy, actually hesitated. "What do you want?" Vexer finally asked, the words clearly painful. Admiral Reeves leaned forward. "Immediate cessation of all surveillance and infiltration activities against Earth. Formal recognition of Earth's sovereignty and right to self-determination. And most importantly, diplomatic negotiations regarding Earth's status in the galactic community, not as a subject world, but as an equal power." "Preposterous," Vexer began, but Spectre cut him off. "Perhaps a more concrete demonstration is needed," the hacker said. On the screen, classified Forlac military data began scrolling. Deployment patterns, weapon specifications, genetic weaknesses. "This information is currently being prepared for broadcast on open galactic channels. Shall I proceed, or would you prefer to reconsider the Admiral's reasonable requests?" The bridge of the Stygian Thorn was silent save for the soft beeping of consoles. Kalen felt the weight of the moment. History shifting, the balance of power tilting in ways that would reshape the galaxy. And he, through his arrogance and ambition, had been the instrument of this catastrophic change. "Very well," Vexer said at last, each word clipped and precise. "We will withdraw surveillance operations and recognize Earth's sovereignty. Negotiations can be arranged at the neutral station in the Proximus system." "Excellent," Admiral Reeves nodded. "We'll prepare a delegation." "And the Stygian Thorn?" Kalen asked, finding his voice at last. "We'll return to Forlac space immediately," Vexer said, his gaze promising future consequences for Kalen. "This incident will be reviewed extensively." The communication channel closed. Admiral Reeves remained on screen, her expression now somewhat sympathetic. "Commander Kalen, your ship's controls will be returned once you've left Earth orbit. Consider this a lesson in humility, one your Empire clearly needs." Her image vanished, leaving the bridge crew in stunned silence. Moments later, the ship's systems began coming back online, one by one. The hum of the stealth field resumed, though Kalen suspected that Earth's sensors would have no trouble tracking them regardless. Setting course for Forlac space, the navigation officer announced quietly, not meeting Kalen's eyes. As the Stygian Thorn prepared to depart, a final message appeared on the view screen, text only, in Forlac script. "A parting gift for your journey home. A data package downloaded automatically into the ship's systems. Analysis showed it contained security patches for the vulnerabilities Spectre had exploited, but also an encrypted message that resisted immediate decryption." "Commander," Lyra said softly as they watched Earth recede on the view screen, "what do you think will happen now?" Kalen had no answer that wouldn't sound hollow. His career was over, certainly. The Empire's strategies toward emerging species would need to be entirely reconsidered. And somewhere on that blue-green world, a single human had accomplished what entire civilizations had failed to do: force the Forlac Empire to the negotiating table. "We underestimated them," he said finally. "Their chaos, their adaptability, it gives them strength we cannot comprehend." The encrypted message from Spectre finally yielded to the ship's decryption algorithms. It was brief, but chilling. "Front door closed. Back doors remain. Peace depends on your choices. We'll be watching." Kalen stared at the message for a long moment before clearing it from the screen. As the Stygian Thorn accelerated toward the jump point that would take them back to Forlac space, he found himself looking back at the rapidly shrinking form of Earth. No longer a target, no longer a primitive curiosity, but something far more dangerous, an equal. And perhaps, though he would never admit it aloud, something worthy of respect. The journey back to Forlac space was conducted in tense silence. The crew of the Stygian Thorn moved through their duties with mechanical precision, avoiding Kalen's gaze whenever possible. The unspoken accusation hung in the recycled air of the ship. Their commander's arrogance had led them to disaster. Kalen remained mostly in his quarters, ostensibly preparing the extensive report that would be demanded upon their return. In reality, he spent hours reviewing the encounter, searching for the moment when control had slipped away, when a primitive species had turned the tables on the Empire's most advanced technology. On the third day of their return journey, Lyra requested permission to enter his quarters. He granted it, knowing she at least would speak honestly. "The crew is talking," she said without preamble, standing formally just inside the doorway. "They're saying Supreme Command will make an example of you." Kalen nodded slightly. "They will be fools not to. My failure must have consequences." "It wasn't just your failure," Lyra said, surprising him. "We all underestimated them. The entire empire has been operating on flawed assumptions about emerging species. A perspective I doubt will find sympathy among the high commanders," Kalen replied dryly. Lyra hesitated, then moved further into the room. "I've been analyzing the security patches Spectre provided. They're remarkable. The elegance of the code, the insight into our systems. It shouldn't be possible for a human to understand our technology so thoroughly. And yet, here we are." Kalen gestured toward the data display where he had been reviewing the encounter. "What's your assessment, science officer?" "Not as my subordinate, but as a theorist." Lyra considered the question carefully. "I believe we've been making a fundamental error in our evaluation of species development. We measure advancement linearly, technological sophistication, energy utilization, space capability. But Earth demonstrates that evolution can take unexpected paths." "The chaos factor," Kalen murmured. "Precisely. Their fragmented development, competitive rather than unified, has produced an unusual adaptability. Different approaches evolving simultaneously, cross-pollinating. And their individual initiative." She shook her head. "One human hacker accomplished what would have required an entire Imperial task force." "Do you think the Spectre was acting alone?" Kalen asked, voicing the question that had been haunting him. "Unlikely," Lyra admitted. "The level of coordination with their military suggests at least some official backing. But the methods, the communication style, those were distinctly individual." Kalen rose and moved to the viewport, watching the distorted stars of hyperspace streak by. "The High Commanders will want to respond with force. To make an example of Earth. That would be unwise," Lyra said carefully. "If Spectre's claims are accurate, humans have already penetrated our networks extensively. A military action could trigger countermeasures we cannot predict. Assuming Spectre wasn't bluffing. Do you believe they were?" Kalen thought of the precision with which the hacker had navigated Forlax systems, the casual demonstration of power, the strategic restraint shown. "No," he admitted. "I don't." "Then we face a new reality," Lyra said simply. "One the Empire is ill-prepared for." Before Kalen could respond, the ship's communication system chimed. "Commander," came the voice of the communication officer. "Priority message from Central Command. For your eyes only." "Send it through," Kalen ordered, exchanging a glance with Lyra. This was earlier than expected. The data screen in his quarters activated, displaying the Imperial seal before resolving into the image of Xoreth, second advisor to the Imperial Council, a position so elevated that Kalen had never actually communicated directly with someone of his rank. His scales were the deep blue-black of the highest bloodlines, his bearing impeccable. "Commander Kalen," the advisor stated without greeting, "you will divert from your current course and proceed directly to the diplomatic outpost in the Proxima system. A Tellurian diplomatic vessel will rendezvous with you there in 3 cycles." Kalen blinked in surprise. "Advisor, we are under orders to return to Central Command for debriefing and—" "Those orders are superseded," Xoreth interrupted. "The situation has evolved. Reports are coming in from multiple sectors of unauthorized data transmissions from our secure networks. Military deployments have been exposed. Research initiatives compromised." His eyes narrowed. The human's reach appears to extend further than initially assessed. Kalen felt a cold certainty settle in his chest. Spectre had not been bluffing. "Your new orders," Xoreth continued, "are to serve as the Empire's preliminary representative in discussions with the Earth delegation. Your first-hand experience with their capabilities makes you uniquely qualified." The unspoken subtext was clear. Kalen had created this disaster. Now he would be the face of it. Whether this was punishment or opportunity remained to be seen. The Imperial Council believes a show of flexibility is warranted given the circumstances, Xoreth said, each word clearly painful. You are authorized to negotiate preliminary recognition of Earth's sovereign status and establish protocols for future diplomatic relations. Kalen struggled to maintain his composure. This is unexpected, advisor. Indeed, Xoreth's expression was unreadable. These are unprecedented times, Commander. The Empire has faced military threats before, technological rivals, but never this. An enemy who fights not with ships or weapons, but with information itself. He leaned forward slightly. Learn everything you can about their capabilities, their weaknesses, their intentions. The Empire's future security may depend on your insights. Understood, advisor. And my crew will remain with you. Science Officer Lyra's expertise will be particularly valuable. Infiltration Leader Zolter, however, has been reassigned. Translation: Zolter was already facing consequences for his role in the security breach. One final matter, Xoreth said. Our analysts have been working to trace the origin of the human infiltration. They believe this Spectre may have had access to Forlac technology before your encounter, possibly from a previous reconnaissance mission that encountered difficulties. Kalen frowned. The Vigilant? It was reported lost to an asteroid collision near Sol 3 cycles ago. So the official record states, Xoreth said meaningfully. But now we must consider other possibilities. Investigate this angle in your discussions. Discreetly. Yes, advisor. Remember, Commander, while you're authorized to make certain concessions for appearances, the ultimate goal remains unchanged. Earth and its technology must eventually be brought under Imperial control. This is merely a tactical adjustment. The communication ended, leaving Kalen and Lyra in silence. Well, Lyra said eventually, it seems your career isn't over after all. No, Kalen agreed grimly. I've simply been given a different path to failure. He turned to face her fully. The Empire won't accept this situation permanently. They're playing for time, nothing more. And if Earth truly has the capabilities Spectre demonstrated, then the galaxy, as we know, it has already changed. The Empire just hasn't accepted it yet. 3 days later, the Stygian Thorn arrived at the Proxima diplomatic outpost, a sprawling space station maintained jointly by several major galactic powers as neutral ground for negotiations. As they approached the docking bay, Kalen stood on the bridge, watching the station grow larger on the view screen. Scanners detecting 2 vessels already docked, reported the sensor officer. One Tellurian diplomatic cruiser, as expected. The other. He paused, checking his readings. Unknown configuration. Approximately 1/4 our size. Primitive chemical propulsion systems, minimal armor. The humans, Kalen said quietly. They actually came. In that, the officer asked incredulously. It's barely space-worthy by Imperial standards. And yet, Lyra observed from her station, here they are, halfway across their solar system, preparing to negotiate with the most powerful empire in the quadrant. Perhaps we should continue reassessing our definition of primitive. As they completed docking procedures, Kalen received a priority communication from the station's diplomatic protocol officer, a neutral Nexian whose species specialized in facilitating cross-cultural negotiations. Commander Kalen, welcome to Proxima Outpost. The Nexian greeted, its translucent features shifting in the species' equivalent of a formal smile. The Earth delegation has requested that a particular message be delivered to you upon arrival. Proceed, Kalen said, curious despite himself. The Nexian's expression shifted to what might have been discomfort. They said, and I quote, tell Commander Kalen that Spectre sends regards and looks forward to meeting in person. The back doors remain open, but so does the front door. Choose wisely. Kalen felt a chill run through him. The same primal reaction he had experienced on the bridge of the Stygian Thorn when they had first been breached. For a moment, he considered the options before him. Attempt to follow his hidden orders to gather intelligence for eventual conquest, or acknowledge the new reality that this primitive species had fundamentally altered the balance of power. As he prepared to disembark for the first formal meeting between the Forlac Empire and Earth, Kalen made his decision. He would follow the path that had brought him to this point, ambition. But that ambition would now serve a different master. If Earth truly represented a new kind of power in the galaxy, then aligning himself with its ascendants might offer opportunities the hidebound empire never could. Prepare the diplomatic party, he ordered Lyra, and secure our systems according to the new protocols. The ones provided by Spectre? She asked, raising an eyebrow ridge. Yes, Kalen confirmed. If we're going to negotiate with ghosts, we should at least ensure they don't have reason to haunt us further. As they moved toward the airlock, Kalen glanced once more at the view screen showing Earth's small, seemingly primitive vessel. Somewhere aboard that ship was an individual who had outmaneuvered the most sophisticated technology in known space, not through superior firepower or resources, but through ingenuity, adaptability, and the chaotic creativity that seemed to define humanity. The galaxy had indeed changed forever, and Kalen, survivor that he was, intended to change with it. The first formal meeting between the Forlac Empire and Earth took place in the Grand Negotiation Chamber of the Proxima Outpost. The circular room was designed to minimize cultural advantages, neutral lighting, adjustable gravity, and atmospheric composition that could be tailored to each species' requirements in their separate sections. Kalen led the Forlac delegation into the chamber with practiced dignity, flanked by Lyra and two junior officers. Across the room, the human representatives were already seated. Admiral Reeves in her formal uniform, two individuals in what appeared to be civilian diplomatic attire, and a fourth human whose casual appearance stood in stark contrast to the others. This last individual, young by human standards, with an unruly mass of dark hair and an expression of barely contained amusement, caught Kalen's attention immediately. There was no formal identification, no military bearing, yet the others in the Earth delegation seemed to orient themselves around this person subtly, unconsciously. Commander Kalen, Admiral Reeves greeted formally as the Forlac delegation took their seats. Allow me to introduce our representatives. Ambassador Liu of the United Earth Council, Dr. Elizabeth Chandra, our scientific liaison, and she hesitated almost imperceptibly. Technical consultant Alex Morgan. The casual human, Morgan, offered a small wave instead of the formal bow the others performed. We've met, in a manner of speaking, Morgan said, voice matching the one that had invaded the Stygian Thorn's communication systems. Though I believe you know me better as Spectre. Kalen managed to maintain his composure, though he heard one of his junior officers inhale sharply. Indeed, he replied carefully. Your technical skills are quite impressive, Consultant Morgan. Morgan smiled, the expression disarmingly genuine. And your adaptation to changing circumstances is equally impressive, Commander. I admit I expected the Empire to send someone new, someone who could disavow all knowledge of our previous encounter. The Empire believes in learning from experience, Kalen responded diplomatically. Does it? Morgan tilted their head curiously. That hasn't been my observation, but perhaps you're the exception that proves the rule. The Nexian facilitator intervened smoothly, guiding them through the formal diplomatic protocols. Over the next several hours, the initial framework of understanding between Earth and the Forlac Empire was painfully negotiated. Recognition of boundaries, communication protocols, non-interference agreements. Throughout the proceedings, Kalen found his attention repeatedly drawn to Morgan. The human's technical expertise was evident in the precise questions about encryption standards and verification methods. But there was something else, an unpredictability that made Kalen's training in diplomatic assessment nearly useless. Morgan would switch from intense focus to apparent boredom, from formal language to colloquialisms Kalen's translator struggled to interpret. During a brief recess, Lyra approached Kalen in the private Forlac consultation room. Your impression of the human, Morgan? She asked without preamble. Dangerous, Kalen replied honestly. Possibly the most dangerous individual I've encountered in my career. Lyra nodded. The others follow established patterns. The military officer, the diplomat, the scientist. But Morgan, it's as if they're operating on a different level entirely. Our orders remain to gather intelligence on their capabilities, Kalen reminded her, though the words fell hollow even as he spoke them. And have you considered, Lyra asked carefully, that they might be allowing us to learn exactly what they want us to know, and nothing more? Before Kalen could respond, they were called back to the negotiation chamber. As they entered, he noticed Morgan engaged in animated conversation with a Tellurian representative who had been observing the proceedings. The Tellurian, normally a reserved species, appeared to be laughing. Ambassador Liu addressed the reconvened session. We've established the basic framework for formal recognition and non-aggression. Now I believe we should discuss technological exchange protocols. The Empire is prepared to offer limited access to our agricultural terraforming technology, Kalen replied, according to his instructions. As a gesture of goodwill, obsolete technology as a gift to the primitives? Morgan interjected, though without apparent offense. Classic colonial approach. Offer technologies you've moved beyond while restricting anything that might allow true parity. Admiral Reeves shot Morgan a warning glance, but the hacker continued undeterred. Let's be more direct, shall we? We know the Empire wants our quantum simulation breakthrough. You wouldn't have risked a stealth mission otherwise. But here's what you don't understand. It's not a weapon or a singular technology. It's an approach, a method of thinking that your hierarchical systems simply can't reproduce. Kalen felt a flicker of genuine curiosity break through his diplomatic mask. Explain. Morgan leaned forward. Your empire builds technology like your society. Layers of control, checks, restrictions. Everything serving the structure. Human innovation happens at the edges, in the spaces between established systems. Our breakthrough came from a teenager in Mumbai, playing with code for fun, a quantum physicist in Nigeria who broke conventional rules, and a network architect in Chile who connected ideas no one else considered related. Unstructured development is inefficient, Kalen countered. Inefficient. Morgan smiled. I compromised your efficient systems in 17 minutes. From a planet you consider primitive. The bluntness of the statement hung in the air. In diplomatic settings, such realities were typically veiled in careful language. What are you proposing? Kalen asked finally. Morgan glanced at Ambassador Liu, who nodded slightly. A genuine exchange. Not technologies, paradigms. We'll share our approach to quantum simulation. You'll share your understanding of faster-than-light communication principles. Both sides implement in their own way, according to their own needs. Kalen's mind raced. Such an exchange went far beyond his authorization. Yet the alternative, returning to the Empire with nothing but a basic non-aggression pact, would be seen as failure, especially after the humiliation already suffered. I would need to consult with Supreme Command, he said carefully. Of course, Morgan replied, just as we need to consult with Earth's leadership. But consider this, Commander. Morgan's expression turned serious for the first time. The fact that I'm sitting here, rather than continuing to exploit the backdoors I've established in your networks, is a choice. A choice for cooperation over conflict. The Empire should consider making the same choice. The threat was unmistakable, yet delivered with such casual confidence that it seemed simply a statement of fact rather than coercion. When the day's negotiations concluded, Kalen returned to the Stygian Thorn to prepare his report to Supreme Command. As he entered his quarters, he found a small data device sitting on his desk, a device that had definitely not been there when he left. After careful scanning revealed no obvious threats, he activated it. A holographic message appeared, Morgan's face grinning. A private addendum to our discussion, Commander. 2 things you should know. First, the Vigilant wasn't destroyed by asteroids. We salvaged it, studied it, learned from it. That's how I first understood your systems. Kalen felt the pieces clicking into place, how a primitive species had so thoroughly understood Forlac technology. Second, Morgan's recording continued. I'm not the only Spectre. There are thousands of us now, a distributed network of hackers across Earth who understand your systems. An army without uniforms or chain of command. The message ended, leaving Kalen staring at empty air. The implications were staggering. Not just one exceptional human, but an entire underground network with access to salvaged Forlac technology. When he finally composed his report to Supreme Command, Kalen made an unprecedented recommendation: genuine cooperation with Earth, not as a temporary tactic, but as a long-term strategy. The Empire had encountered a species that fought not with conventional weapons, but with information itself, a battlefield where Forlac superiority was not assured. The response came 12 hours later. Supreme Command rejected his assessment, ordering him to stall negotiations while a battle fleet was assembled. Earth would be taught respect through force. Kalen read the orders 3 times, then made the most consequential decision of his career. He deleted them. The next morning, he returned to the negotiation chamber with a counter-proposal: mutual technology exchange, open diplomatic channels, and recognition of Earth as a sovereign power in the solar system. As the details were finalized over the following days, Morgan approached Kalen during another recess. "You never transmitted Supreme Command's response," the hacker said quietly. "Why?" Kalen considered denying knowledge of what Morgan was referring to, then decided against it. This human had proven repeatedly that deception was futile. The Empire has existed for 12,000 years by recognizing changing realities, he said finally. Some of us still remember how to adapt. Morgan nodded slowly. They'll recall you, possibly worse. Probably. Then why? Kalen looked at the human, this representative of a species that had completely upended his understanding of development, power, and possibility. Because the Empire needs to change if it hopes to survive the next 1,000 years. And change begins with recognition of new truths, however uncomfortable. Morgan studied him for a long moment. "I underestimated you, Commander. I thought you were just another Imperial functionary. And I thought humans were primitive," Kalen replied with the faintest suggestion of humor. "It seems we both had something to learn." As the negotiations concluded, formalized in a historic agreement that would reshape galactic politics, Kalen prepared for his return to Forlac space and the consequences that awaited him. His career was certainly over, possibly his freedom as well. Yet as he watched Earth's small ship detach from the station and begin its journey home, he felt an unfamiliar emotion: hope. Not for himself, but for the future. A future where even the mighty Forlac Empire would need to reckon with the chaotic, unpredictable, brilliant species they had dismissed as primitive. A species that had turned the galaxy's systems against them, not through superior firepower or resources, but through the uniquely human qualities of adaptability, creativity, and the willingness to challenge established order. As the Stygian Thorn prepared for departure, Lyra joined him on the observation deck. "What happens now?" she asked. "For me? Disgrace, most likely," Kalen answered honestly. "For the Empire? Adaptation, if it's wise. Decline, if it isn't. And for Earth." Kalen watched the final, lingering image of the human vessel as it disappeared into the darkness of space. Something new. Something neither they nor we can fully predict. He turned to face her directly. "But whatever it is, the galaxy will never be the same." As the Stygian Thorn pulled away from the Proxima outpost, a final message appeared on Kalen's private terminal. "Back doors closed. Front door open. See you among the stars. Spectre." Kalen allowed himself a small smile. The Empire had sought Earth's secrets, but in doing so, had revealed its own vulnerabilities to a species that thrived on finding weakness, exploiting opportunity, and imagining possibilities others couldn't see. The balance of power had shifted irrevocably, not through the traditional collision of fleets and armies, but through the quiet infiltration of systems, the leverage of information, and the audacity of a species unbound by convention. They had wanted Earth's secrets, but a human hacker had turned the galaxy's systems against them, and in doing so, had changed everything.